All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about the Jets and, most recently signing Tyron Smith. But we'll also get into, the other moves that they made to try to bolster this offensive line. So they signed Tyron Smith, 33 years old, played his entire career with the Cowboys. He's going to be playing left tackle. Let me see if I can find the specifics of the contract because I thought I had them here in my notes, but I don't think I do. So I think it's a 2-year contract, if I'm not mistaken, of course. And the one thing I look at doesn't show the specifics of the deal, but I think it's a 2-year contract. And I think this was a good move for the Jets. I mean, it's a 1-year deal. 1-year deal. My mistake. 1-year deal worth up to, I think it said $20 million. That is, if it'll load. Yes, that's correct. Worth up to $20 million. And this was a move that the Jets had to make because their offensive line last year was, you could look at as the reason why Aaron Rodgers ended up tearing his Achilles. And this is important. And this was the third offensive lineman that the Jets have brought in. They traded for Morgan Moses, and they also signed John Simpson, a guard. So the Jets have addressed the offensive line in the offseason. But it's weird because Joe Douglas said that the offensive line, didn't he say that it was fine earlier in the offseason? Well, obviously it's not fine, and the Jets made some big moves. So really right now their offensive line, you're going to have Tyron Smith, John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, Elijah Vera Tucker coming back from injury. Hopefully he bounces back. And Morgan Moses. That's going to be your offensive line, and it's going to be a lot different than what it was in 2023. So you're hoping for the best. And again, if everybody stays healthy, then Aaron Rodgers is going to have, you would think, solid protection in 2024. But again, that's a big if. Tyron Smith's a guy that has dealt with a ton of injuries over the course of his career, and I think I did a segment on him not too long ago. But he was relatively healthy in 2023. He did play, he played in 13 games, so he did miss some time, but still, 13 games is good for him. That's really, and then, the 3 seasons before that, 2022 he played in 4 games. 2021 he played in 11. 2020 he played in 2. And then from 2016 to 2019 he played in 13 games. And then from 2011 to 2015, other than 2012, he played in 15, so he missed 1 game. But I guess, actually, no, I shouldn't say that because the Cowboys didn't clinch a playoff spot. They went 8-8 that season. He missed 1 game in 2012. Because if you remember, 2011 to 2013, they've 3 straight years going 8-8 and losing to every other team in the division for the division title. The Giants was 2011. At the time, the Redskins was 2012. And then 2013 was the Eagles when Kyle Orton was the starter. If you remember that. I remember watching that game. And I actually was kind of upset when Dallas lost. And I'm like, why am I upset? I don't know. I guess because I don't know. I don't know. I felt bad for Jason Witten, I guess. I don't know. Look at me saying that. So after 2015, he missed, like I said, 2016 to 2019, played in 13 games. But the 2 games in 2020 and 2022, he played in 4. Again, he's dealt with a lot of injuries. And that definitely could rear its ugly head this upcoming season. So, again, the Jets are going to have to, have some depth on the offensive line as well, which, again, you figure, in the draft, they're going to maybe draft an offensive lineman. I think with what they've done, with their pick, they might take one of these receivers. Whether it's Marvin Harrison Jr. is not going to be there. So it's probably going to be, maybe Malik Neighbors, Adunze. It's going to be one of those guys, maybe. We'll see. Brock Bowers, I know, has gotten there's some rumors out there that maybe he falls to the Jets. They end up taking him. So, but listen, the offensive line That is the most important thing going into, well, again, Aaron Rodgers is very important as well. Um, but yeah, him being healthy and the offensive line being able to protect him, that together is the most important thing going into next year. Now, I know Aaron Rodgers has been in the news lately for a couple of different things, which I'm not going to get into. But, that makes a lot of people question his commitment to the team. Yeah, but we'll see. But yeah, if Rodgers is healthy and he's got protection on the offensive line, I mean, I know he's 40 years old, but I'm expecting him to, at least put the Jets in good position to win games and them be a better team than they were in 2023. Now, I have a lot of friends that are Jet fans, coworkers. They're not confident going into next season. And I'm not very confident either. And I was someone that, wanted to see Rodgers go out there and play well because I feel like a lot of people forgot how good he is. And, of course, 4 plays into the game against the Bills, he ends up tearing his Achilles, and everything I feared happened. And it was very deflating to watch because, again, that's a player, regardless of what you think about him off the football field, he's a guy that I've loved watching since, really I started watching football. He's been one of my favorite players, and I want to see him go out on somewhat of a high note. Now, again, I don't know. I don't think he's going to win another Super Bowl. I think that kind of set sail years ago. But I want to see him at least go out there, have a good season, and whatever happens, happens. If he ends up losing in the playoffs, so be it. You lose in a shootout to the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead, and you retire. I'd rather see him go out like that than, 4 plays and he's done for the year. So, but again, have to fix this offensive line, and the Jets have done that. But I mean, of course, we got to see how it meshes together, and if these guys stay healthy. But you at least got to give Joe Douglas credit that he went out and tried to fix this offensive line, which is something that's been a problem for the Jets for years. And it's the same problem with the team across the hall, the New York Giants. So both of these teams have been trying to fix this offensive line for so long. Well, let's see if they finally were able to do that. But again, this also affects the Cowboys because they really have not done anything in this offseason. Again, I talked about this last week, but they signed Eric Kendricks, a linebacker. They re-signed their long snapper, but you lost some guys. You lost some guys in the offensive line now. You lost Tony Pollard. This draft is going to be huge for them because they're going to have to address basically all their needs in the draft, unless maybe they trade for somebody that we don't see it coming. But yeah, now you lost your left tackle. So again, this is going to be a big draft for the Cowboys. It's going to be a big draft for the Jets too because again, I think you need to continue to add depth to this offensive line. But again, you want to get Aaron Rodgers some more weapons because obviously you're expecting big things out of Breece Hall. Again, going to now into his 3rd season. Garrett Wilson, you hope that with Aaron Rodgers, a full year of him, that he could really show you what he can do. You paid Allen Lazard all that money. You're hoping that he could bounce back because that signing does not look very good right now. But again, they did that because Rodgers was coming to the Jets. Same thing with Nathaniel Hackett. They could tell us whatever they want, but we know this is why they did all these things because they wanted to, appease Aaron Rodgers and say, hey, come here. We got your guys. So yeah, I think you got to add another weapon to this team. A weapon or two would be nice. Because, the defense, again, they lost Bryce Huff, one of their key guys on defense, to the Eagles. So now as a Giant fan, we got to deal with him twice a year. But the defense, for the most part, is still intact. So, and I think they did lose Jordan Whitehead. He actually went back to Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay Bakes, or no, Tampa Bake. That's the Tampa Bake Buccaneers. That's what we're calling it. Calling it Tampa Bake. We went from Tampa Bay to now Tampa Bake. So Jordan Whitehead went back to Tampa. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know if the Jets made any signings. Actually, they might have did. I could be wrong though. Actually, no. I'm thinking of the Steelers because I know Deshaun Elliott. He signed with the team, and he's a safety. But yeah, he signed with the Steelers. So I don't know why I thought the Jets signed him. But yeah, he went to the Steelers. So, but yeah, for the most part, the Jets defense is still intact. So, I mean, the offense. Listen, if the offense was competent last year, I mean, this team, they'd be right there for a playoff spot. But it's just the offense was a major problem. And if you could get a healthy Rodgers and give him protection, I mean, I think he's still got something left in the tank. I refuse to think he doesn't. But again, he's coming off of a significant knee injury or leg injury. So, we'll see how he bounces back. Him and Kirk Cousins both suffered the same injury. But again, I mean, Kirk Cousins is still in his 30s. Rodgers is 40 years old. But, I don't want to doubt him. I might be in the minor. I'm just going to be in the minority and just say I think he'll bounce back. But it's not. It doesn't come with. It also comes with me crossing my fingers that he doesn't, hurt himself again. Because again, I want to see him go out on somewhat of a high note. But again, only time will tell. But you know what? The Jets, they at least addressed one of the biggest weaknesses of the team, and that is the offensive line. And again, like I said, with crossing your fingers, you got to cross your fingers that these guys stay healthy. Because again, Tyron Smith is a guy that has been injured a lot over the last couple of seasons. And you're probably not going to get a full season out of him. You might. I mean, you hope he plays if he plays 13 games, I mean, you're going to be doing cartwheels. You don't want to see him playing. Like I said, he played 4 games, I think, the previous season. Yeah, you want to see this guy play close to a full season. Because if not, listen, you got a 40-year-old quarterback sitting behind him, behind that line. You do not want a repeat of opening night against the Bills. I don't think anybody wants that. But we'll see. But I think you got to at least be maybe just a little optimistic about what the Jets did. I think it. I mean, we'll see what happens. But they address the offensive line. Let's see what they do in the draft. And hopefully this is take 2 of Rodgers' stint with the Jets. But again, like I keep saying, only time will tell. So with that being said, we are going to take our final break of the show. And then when we come back, we will talk about some wide receiver moves. Also, we'll talk about Mike Williams as well. He was set to meet with a few teams. So we'll get into that. And one of those teams we literally just talked about. So that is what we are going to do when we come back from our final break of the show. So with that being said, stick around and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.